Hello again, my fellow data junkies and doom scrollers. You're watching the comment section with Thomas Paul, where we unpack the fresh madness swirling at the intersection of politics, tech, and finance with just a dash of sarcasm. Because nothing says stable economy like a politician on X.com who's armed with tariffs and a dream. Buckle up, because this one's a doozy. Let's start with the headline fiasco that's got economists clutching their spreadsheets. Tariffs. Yes, that old chestnut. In a move guaranteed to keep 24-hour news commentators employed for the next decade, Trump just decided to jack up tariffs on basically everything that crosses the border from our friendly neighbors to the north and south. Picture the moment. You're a car manufacturer in Detroit. You rely on engine parts from Mexico, transmissions from Canada, and 1,000 other bits flying around on trucks all day. Then suddenly, boom! 25% tariffs on those imports. That's like hitting the brakes while someone else slams the accelerator. And what about China? Because it wouldn't be a party without them. The plan is apparently to raise existing duties on Chinese imports from 10% to 20%, partly as a retaliation for fentanyl problems. Because obviously, we fixed that by charging more taxes on laptop screens and phone batteries, right? But wait, it gets even wilder. Markets instantly freaked out as if told they could no longer drink coffee. The Dow drops 1.5%, S&P 500 is down 1.8%, and the Nasdaq, home of all those fancy tech stocks, spirals 2.6%. And that's just in one day. You can imagine hedge fund managers running around their offices like they just discovered their coffee machine is broken. Social media is not any calmer. On X, formerly Twitter, #trade war started trending, with some folks praising the move as long overdue, and others basically screaming, "Did we learn nothing from the last time?" Meanwhile, on Facebook, your uncle is probably sharing articles claiming this will either single-handedly save American manufacturing or doom the entire free world. Because nuance is overrated. Oh, and let's talk about the auto industry meltdown, because it's too delicious not to. According to top analysts, a modern car's parts can cross the border multiple times before it finally rolls off the assembly line. So each border crossing is now potentially subject to that 25% tariff. Imagine building a burrito, but every ingredient you add costs 25% more each time you open the fridge. Because who doesn't want a $50 burrito, right? That's basically how your next car might be priced. Death by 1,000 tariff cuts. Some auto CEOs have tried to keep a brave face, but you can practically hear them hyperventilating backstage. Word on the street is that a typical American-made car could cost around $3,000 more, maybe less, but definitely not cheaper. So if you're planning on buying a new ride, maybe hold off until these tariffs calm down, unless you like the thrill of spontaneously inflating sticker prices. And here's where things get interesting. While the stock market was basically practicing an Olympic-level dive, Trump brought out the CEO of TSMC, the Taiwanese semiconductor giant, to announce a monstrous $100 billion investment in U.S. chip manufacturing. The optics are so intense. One moment we're hearing how everything from iPhones to car parts might cost more due to tariffs, and the next, you see TSMC's top executives with the biggest grin proclaiming they're going to build new fabs, R&D centers, and packaging facilities across the states. It's like they said, hey, if you don't want more tariffs on our chips, guess we'll just make them in your backyard. Politicians are giddy, calling it a massive win for U.S. tech independence, because apparently the best way to fight a trade war is to stage a $100 billion cameo from one of the world's most critical manufacturers. And yes, TSMC is crucial. They make the brains for your smartphones, your laptops, even some next-level GPUs powering your favorite cat memes. No biggie. But wait, it gets even wilder. Some folks in the administration are spinning it as a direct triumph of America First policy, like, see, tariffs scare them enough to build here. Others are saying TSMC has been planning to expand in the States anyway, lured by government subsidies from the CHIPS Act. Maybe it's a bit of both. Either way, TSMC announced a lineup of brand spanking new facilities that might transform parts of Arizona into the Silicon Desert. We're talking advanced fab plants, thousands of engineering jobs, a local economy boom, plus all the coffee shops that will pop up to fuel the newly minted chip-making workforce. Or at least, That's the promise. The reality could get complicated because these multi-billion-dollar chip factories don't just sprout overnight. They need insane amounts of water and specialized labor, and let's not forget the occasional desert dust storm. But hey, we'll keep the optimism for now. Naturally, social media is on fire with takes. Over on X, some are celebrating with #bringing chip jobs home, praising the plan to reduce America's dependence on foreign manufacturing. Others are pointing out that Taiwanese chip experts might balk at relocating to the middle of the Arizona desert. And what about the water supply? And of course, the real cynics are saying, let's see if this actually materializes, or if it's just another political show-and-tell moment. On Facebook, you'll find local Arizonians posting pictures of cacti and microchips spliced together in memes, because the future is weird, folks. And on TikTok, creators are uploading short videos explaining how TSMC's expansion might secure America's chip supply if global tensions escalate. In one viral video, a chip engineer literally used Doritos to demonstrate how complicated wafer production can be. I mean, I'm sold. But let's not forget, in the same breath, the administration is still pushing heavier tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a laundry list of other imports. For all the fancy announcements about TSMC, the rest of the economy's gearing up for some serious inflation if supply chains don't adapt. Market analysts are practically losing their minds trying to figure out if we're headed for a short recession, a mild slump, or no slump at all, like the daily vibe check from your friend group that can't decide which bar to go to. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is basically crying, tariffs are not the answer. Meanwhile, small business owners are doing a collective facepalm, because for them, it's not about political points, it's about survival. If you rely on cheap raw materials from abroad, you either pay the tariff or hike your prices. And if you raise prices, your customers vanish to your competitor who maybe found a sneaky loophole or a non-tariffed supplier. It's a game of whack-a-mole, except the moles are your distribution channels, and the mallet is a 25% tax you never asked for. But wait, it gets even wilder. Everyone's also worried about retaliation. Canada and Mexico have hinted at slapping their own tariffs on U.S. goods if this goes too far. So farmers in Iowa are having flashbacks to the last trade scuffle when sales of American corn and soybeans tanked because our neighbors got fed up and turned to Brazil. And let's be honest, you poke your allies enough, they might poke back. Because apparently, the best cure for inflation is a good old-fashioned trade dispute, right? Now, if this all sounds like a messy soap opera, well, that's because it is. You've got big personalities, massive sums of money, global alliances on shaky ground, and TikTok videos going viral making fun of it all. Somewhere in the middle are everyday consumers like you and me, just trying to figure out if groceries are going to cost more next month. And that's the million-dollar question. Does any of this actually help your wallet, or does it just make for entertaining headlines? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a chaotic meltdown with a side of, but maybe we'll get more American chip plants? So, yay? And here's where things get interesting. There's a silver lining if the TSMC plan actually pans out. More domestic chip production could mean fewer shortages in the future. Remember the last time you tried to buy a new car and they said, sorry, we're out of microchips, come back in 6 months? Well, theoretically, building more fabs stateside helps. Also, strategic security. If tensions with China escalate, having advanced chips made on U.S. soil might keep your PlayStation 7 from becoming an endangered species. That's the dream scenario. But let's not sugarcoat it. Building $100 billion worth of new fabs is a multi-year endeavor that requires an army of skilled workers. And TSMC's success depends on stable trade policies, which at the moment look about as stable as a toddler hopped up on candy. Meanwhile, inflation is like that one uninvited guest who keeps sneaking into your party. Tariffs can raise prices, higher prices fuel inflation. The Fed might raise interest rates, which can hurt your mortgage, your car loan, and your dog's future doghouse. It's the circle of financial life, folks. You won't believe what happens next, or maybe you will, because at this point we're all addicted to the daily drama. We watch the White House press conference, we see the Fed statements, we read the tweets, and then we wonder, is this real life? On social media, half the population is quoting some economist who claims the economy is going to crater, while the other half is quoting a different economist who says the economy is fine, and we're about to have the biggest manufacturing boom in decades. Could both be true at once? Probably not. But we're all living in a quantum state of confusion until the dust settles. By the way, if you're bored with the numbers, how about the human angle? Because behind every tariff or supply chain shuffle is a real person, like a mid-level manager in an auto plant worried about layoffs, or a local diner owner near a soon-to-be TSMC fab site who's hoping business will explode thanks to hungry engineers. The same day the tariffs were announced, news outlets interviewed families who fear grocery prices might spike again, especially on fruits and veggies from Mexico. One mom on TikTok joked about hoarding avocados like they're the new gold, because if a 25% import tax hits them, guac might become the real luxury item. People laughed, but also kinda panicked. If avocados are in danger, we riot, am I right? But wait, it gets even wilder. Some hardcore tariff supporters say, this is exactly the tough medicine we need to break free from foreign dependence. It might hurt at first, but eventually we'll produce everything ourselves. That's great on paper, but ask your local farmer how easy it is to pivot to a brand new supply chain overnight, or a small electronics startup that depends on specific parts from China because there's simply no domestic equivalent. Overnight transformations are typically reserved for fairy tales and, well, not modern industry. That said, if these tariffs last, we might see more companies scramble to build or expand in the US. The question is, do they have the money, the time, and the workforce to do it? Because we're talking about trillions of dollars in global trade flows, not a local bake sale. So yeah, if your head's spinning, you're definitely not alone. Even the analysts can't agree on the final outcome. Welcome to the new normal, folks, where one tweet can send entire markets tumbling, and a single press conference can spark a $100 billion investment announcement. Which, let's be honest, is a pretty big flex. One day we're in meltdown mode, the next day we're popping champagne over new chip factories. It's either the best drama on TV or a sign of the end times. Possibly both, and that's exactly why you tune in, right? Thanks for sticking with me, you absolute troopers. If your phone battery hasn't died or your mind hasn't melted, let's do a quick recap to keep you from drowning in this swirling vortex of news. First, Trump's new tariffs. Bigger, broader, and sure to rile up our trading partners. Second, the markets had a mini panic attack with the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all getting a little woozy. Third, the auto industry is basically sweating bullets because cross-border supply chains are their lifeblood and tariffs are the new vampire. Fourth, TSMC swoops in with a jaw-dropping $100 billion investment in U.S. chipmaking, setting the stage for more domestic tech independence, if everything goes right. Meanwhile, social media, TikTok, X, Facebook, can't stop buzzing about what all of this means for job growth, inflation, and the price of guacamole. You gotta love the internet. And here's where things get interesting. The next few weeks will be crucial. If tariffs actually go into effect and Canada, Mexico, or China retaliate, we could see a real economic slap fight that pushes prices higher and cuts off markets for American goods. If that happens, you can expect more complaining from big corporations, more comedic rants on TikTok, and a lot more chaotic press briefings. Alternatively, if the administration uses tariffs like a bargaining chip and eventually walks them back after reaching a deal with each country, then maybe the permanent damage is minimal, and we can all go back to complaining about something else on social media. Honestly, it's impossible to say which scenario is more likely, so best to grab some popcorn and watch the show. Meanwhile, TSMC has a mammoth task ahead of them to break ground on their new fabs. The last time they tried to set up shop in Arizona, it took longer than expected. Turns out, advanced chip making in the desert is a bit tricky. Go figure. But if TSMC manages to pull this off, we could see Phoenix transform into a semiconductor hotspot. That means more high-paying engineering jobs and a real shot at strengthening the U.S. supply chain for advanced electronics. Expect politicians to brag about it non-stop, especially if the new plants are scheduled to open up near an election cycle. Because who wouldn't want to cut a ribbon in front of a multi-billion-dollar chip facility? But wait, It gets even wilder. If global tensions keep rising, having more domestic chip production could be a game changer. Anyone remember the chaos in electronics manufacturing during the last global crisis, when certain supply chains slowed to a crawl? That was a wake-up call for all the major tech companies who realized just-in-time supply lines don't do well in a pandemic or geopolitical standoff. So, ironically, Trump's trade war theatrics might nudge us into building a more resilient chip ecosystem at home, even if the road there is paved with arguments, memes, and short-term inflation. Now, if you're wondering why the entire internet hasn't collectively lost its mind, well, it has, but we're used to it by now. Tariff drama is basically a rerun of 2018, just with new characters and bigger stakes. We've been conditioned to see headline after headline of potential trade wars, big corporate investments, then more tariffs, then more deals. It's like Groundhog Day, but with the global economy at stake. A touch dramatic, sure, but you can't say it's boring. You won't believe what happens next, or maybe you will. One more reason to keep an eye on this story is that every new development has a direct impact on your wallet, whether it's the price of cars or the availability of your favorite smartphone. Also, if you own stocks, you might have noticed your portfolio took a little roller coaster ride. Or if you're job hunting, keep your eyes peeled for those new TSMC plants in Arizona. Because apparently they'll need a ton of staff, engineers, technicians, maybe even chip-themed cafeteria workers. You never know. Now, before you run off to comment on X about how this is all a conspiracy or the best thing ever, let's bring it back to what you can do. First, stay informed. Don't just read one headline and freak out. There's a lot of nuance behind these tariff announcements and the TSMC investment. Second, keep an eye on your personal spending. If inflation creeps up, you might need to budget for those price increases, especially on imported goods. Third, if you're in an industry directly affected by these tariffs, start planning. Maybe explore local suppliers or see if your business can pivot. Don't be the deer in headlights while your costs surge, because in this environment, you've got to be nimble. And that, my dear viewers, is the sweet spot of insanity we like to call the comment section with Thomas Paul. We've got politics, technology, finance, social media drama, and a dash of personal finance advice thrown in for free, because I'm generous like that. But in all seriousness, let me know what you think in the comments. Are these tariffs a brilliant move or a surefire way to send inflation skyrocketing? Is TSMC's $100 billion plan the best thing since sliced bread, or just corporate theatrics to dodge future tariffs? I can't wait to read your hot takes. If they're especially fiery, I might just feature them in the next video, so bring the sizzle. Alright, my beautiful watchers, that's all I've got for now. Just another day on the roller coaster called the global economy. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe, ring that notification bell, and share this video with your friends who still think tariff is a fancy word for a magic trick. Because hey, knowledge is power, and we could all use a bit more power in these uncertain times. Catch you in the next video. Until then, keep the sarcasm high and the tariffs, well, hopefully not so high. Thanks for watching. Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Will we see $10 avocados or a chip-powered utopia? Or both? Because in 2025, anything's possible. This is Thomas Paul, signing off from the comment section, where the meltdown meets the future. Don't say I didn't warn you.